So normally in this podcast, we talk a lot about Jason Wheeler's hair, but we're talking about other hair today. Your hair. We have two guests today. I'm big fans of Tashara Parker and Ashley Goudeau. Tashara is a WFAA in Dallas. Ashley is our friend at KVUE in Austin. Welcome to Y'all-Tix, y'all.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate you guys having us.
It is great to have you here. We're talking about the Rooted series today, and for people who don't know, it has caught fire. Can you take us back, Tashara, to the beginnings of this, which seemed like they were a long time ago, considering how much this has caught fire, but it seems like it really was just kind of yesterday.
Crazy how a hairstyle triggered such feedback, right? And so it all started back in October. That's when everything went crazy. I wore a hairstyle on WFAA's morning news show, and basically the hairstyle was let's just call them 4 buns going down the middle of my head. 4 neatly parted buns, I will add. And, it triggered quite a bit of feedback. Most of that feedback, I have to say, was positive. But you had a lot of folks just sending some very negative comments, not just to me. They were sending them to the station and just to other folks, and basically just saying, look, that is not professional. You shouldn't wear your hair that way. Why won't you just wear it straight, and all these other different things that they were saying. And so that's what kind of triggered the responses that we started getting online from other folks, basically just coming to my defense saying, hey, your hair looked good. Disregard what those other folks are talking about. And you started seeing pictures and images of young girls wearing their hair with the 4 buns. And mostly their parents were saying it's because they hadn't seen something like that on a morning news show on local TV. So I think that's what triggered that crazy response back in October. And it's been ongoing ever since.
Just to be real clear here, though, there's always feedback when you appear on TV. Yeah. People will comment on the color of your tie, the color of your dress. They didn't like, you got lipstick on your teeth. This is a different thing. This is a different category. This is about race. This is about my body is different than your body, and this is about I don't like that your body is different than my body, and I think you should look more like me.
Yeah, real. That's keeping it real, 100, as I would like to say. And basically, what ended up happening is it comes down to black hair and professionalism, right? When I wear my hair straight, I don't hear a peep from anyone other than, oh, your hair looks good today. And that's considered a microaggression for you to say, oh, the one time that I wear my hair straight, something you're used to seeing, something that's deeply rooted in Eurocentric standards of beauty, you're finally saying that it's cute or nice or whatever you want to call it. But when I wear my hair in its natural state, I get comments like, oh, it looks like you stuck your hand in a socket, an electrical socket, all kind of crazy stuff. And so, yes, it does come down to race, because I'm not the only one that has experienced this. And I think that's why the feedback was so massive online around the world. By the way, that video, Our Perspectives, back in October, it's been viewed 2 million times, and that's on one video that I can find. On other videos, probably even more than that. But 2 million times because other women, other black women, women of color have experienced some of these same things in the workplace as it relates to showing up in their natural state. And I'll go on and add that, studies have basically shown that when we're able to show up as our natural selves 100%, people perform better. So why not allow your employees, your students, even in the education system, to show up as their natural selves, their normal selves, 100% authentically themselves in the workplace. So I think that's why I kind of went crazy too, because I'm not the only one that's experienced this. All the stories and feedback that we've gotten over the last few months has just been astronomical.
Yeah, I point out also that Ashley and Tashara and Jason and I both work, all 4 of us work for the Tegna Corporation, for different subsidiaries of Tegna, and Tegna encourages us to be ourselves. But Tashara, you said something that I want to ask Ashley about too, and that is the comments that are made. Ashley, I've known you for a long time, and you've always worn your hair naturally. I think you've worn it naturally. Have you ever experienced this as well?
So you know me since I worked at KVUE. And yes, while I was at KVUE, I've always worn my hair natural because it was accepted here in Austin. And that was not always the case for me. I was told in my professional career that I couldn't wear my curly hair, that it was unacceptable. It's too big. No, you need to keep it straight. You need to keep it this length, which I think we sort of expect in the news industry. We expect to hear some of those things. But the comments from viewers versus straight haired Ashley versus curly haired Ashley. I mean, my goodness. I think, Tashara, you hit a mighty good point that I go from. I think the one comment that really got me was I go from cute news girl to hot journalist when my hair is straight.
Wow.
Regardless of what's coming out of my mouth and the information that I'm sharing with our viewers. I mean, people just feel as though they can relate to you more when you have, straight hair and you fit this image of beauty. But I get so many comments from women and young girls who are so excited to see my curly hair on the news and that I'm representing, the curly haired girls out there, and we hashtag free the curls. But it is so, and you get it growing up. I think it's not just in our professional setting, when you're in school, when you are in athletics, when you're participating in extracurricular activities, people do look at you differently because they're used to seeing, a certain standard of beauty.
Well, let's go back to the central question of this then, and that is one Tashara posed. And what does hair have to do with professionalism? I don't know if it has anything to do with professionalism.
Absolutely nothing, in my opinion. Your ability to do a job is not dictated by your hairstyle. We don't see people question a man's ability to do his hair, whether his hair is longer or shorter. Jason, when you come into the station with a new haircut, no one is saying, oh yeah, Jason, you can do a great job of the news now because that hair is sharp. Like, no one is telling you that.
Good point.
So why do we put women in these boxes?
Good point.
I've wondered too, when you all, look at other people, let's say, because I know when I look at other people, I think this sometimes. I mean, you could see a guy who, for instance, I grow a terrible beard, okay? It is splotchy, it's in little patches, and I can do it, and I've probably shown up before, and somebody has probably thought, why do people give me problems for the way I wear my hair naturally when he's allowed to be in here wearing that sorry, scruffy beard? Have you ever thought that? Like, how am I the one who's judged through this lens and he's not?
I don't think I have.
Both of you have thought that. You're both pausing here.
I don't think, because it's not, I don't think that's a little judgmental, right? And so I don't think that because of someone who has been so heavily judged on my decision of how I represent myself physically, I don't tend to judge other people. I may be like, hey, Jason, I may make a little comment to you about the struggle bus that you're on with your beard, but
he's on one, Ashley, believe me.
but
the struggle bus, I've never heard that. But that's a great point.
What you say, Ashley? Tell him his beard is struggling a little bit.
I like that, because it's true. It's keeping it 100, as Tashara likes to say. But no, I think that's a fascinating point, though, that once you have been through that and you have been judged and you've been under that microscope, you have a tendency to give other people more grace with their appearance.
Well, and you celebrate their appearance. It's
right.
Hey, Jason, look at you trying out a beard. You go, Jason.
Try and be in the keyword.
It's also just really different in terms of you don't pick your hair grade, your hair texture. This is how your hair grows out of your head, and you should be able to celebrate and wear and embrace that just the way that it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, Ashley, I just want to point out real quick, Ashley, to your last point, I think that's a great point that you made, because when it comes to the way that the hair grows out of your scalp, that's a completely different story from someone, for example, maybe wanting to, I'm just going to throw something out there, dye your hair blue, right? That's something you chose to do to your hair. But for you to receive that type of commentary simply because of the way that your hair is growing out of your scalp, that's an issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tashara, so after all this happened on October 19th, I think you said you were kind of caught off guard by it because you were wearing your hair naturally. But you wrote something for WFAA.com, and I want to pull out a line you wrote because it really struck me when I was reading this. It says, "It takes a level of confidence for black women to show up fully in all their glory without having to adjust to who's in the room or how they will be perceived once they get there." Explain that, because that came from the heart.
Yeah, it really did. And And I honestly get chills hearing that again every time I hear it, to be honest with you, because I meant it. It's hard for Black women when we go into certain spaces just completely to be ourselves. And what I mean by that is there's a thing called code switching, right? You know, and code switching is when you go into certain spaces where you feel like you have to adjust. I say adjust to the energy that's in the room, right? You got to adjust how you talk. You got to adjust how you respond to people. You got to adjust how loud you are. You got to adjust how your hair looks, how you walk, how you act, you know, in all these different situations. And I always tell young girls, especially now, that in order for you to show up in your full glory, you have to walk into those spaces and you have to change the energy that's within those spaces. So what I mean by that is just, it's hard sometimes because we've been told for so many years that us being our natural selves, our authentic selves, is something that is frowned upon. You know, we get touted as the angry Black woman just because you have a direct response to something, right? That doesn't come off all nice and happy all the time, happy-go-lucky. You know, you get that particular label. So there are many things that have led up to this point of Black women not being able to show up as themselves fully in every single space. But that line was basically just saying, man, y'all don't understand like how much work it takes to move in these spaces as yourself. It is hard. And I applaud every Black woman who is in space, because it's nice for me to have this platform and to be on here talking to you guys about this. But there are so many women, so many stories who can't share them, who haven't been able to share them, who suffer in silence. And so when I say walk in your glory, show up in your glory, it takes a level of confidence to do that. I mean that because I know there are so many stories that are being left untold, even in the midst of all the stories that we'll share on Rooted.
Yeah. So
Tashara,
I wanted to talk. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say that line is so powerful, and it struck me because there are so many Black women who are at home getting ready, and I just immediately think about young Black girls who get ready for school and get ready to go to work, and they think their hair is popping. You with the bun, I loved the buns. And I was like, I love that she is like embracing this and wearing this style on the news, but I know that it took a level of kind of building yourself up to, you know what, yes, I can wear my hair like this, it's going to be fine. And then when you go into a space, like as your true authentic self, thinking you look good, and then you are bombarded with negative comments, it is just such a hit. And it's a hit that you should not have to take because it's so basic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Basic. Oh my goodness. The word of the year, basic. You're so right, Ashley.
I want to ask you about this series, the Rooted series, and what that is now, and what you hope that becomes, and how important you think it is for people who, as you say, a lot of Black women, a lot of women of color who are suffering in silence.
Well, what I want is for people to really take a step back. So, for example, your audience, right? That's not the audience that I'm always talking to, right? So I want the folks that are listening to this, the folks that will watch Rooted and listen into Rooted, to take a step back, listen in with an open mind and open heart, and fully embrace the stories that they will hear throughout this series. What I learned as a Black woman when I was talking to all these women about their different hair stories is that many of those stories were identical. And these are women from across, many generations, right? Many generations of different women from different areas of North Texas and different jobs all across the spectrum, right? And so to hear many of their stories, different stories, but in essence have the same kind of things happening to them, I want people to just listen in and just try to get an understanding. And I'm hoping that on the other side of this, on the other side of Rooted, maybe we couldn't change everything you felt. Maybe we can change every microaggression maybe that happens in the workplace. But at the end of the day, maybe you'll think twice before saying, oh, Black woman, is that your real hair? Oh, can I touch it? No, maybe you'll think twice before you do some of those things when you listen in to some of the heartache and some of the things that these women have had to experience over the years.
Ashley, you shook your head there. You've had people reach out and touch your hair.
Oh, honey.
Really?
Many have tried and got their hands slapped.
Really? Seriously, so people still do this?
In 2020, yes. Absolutely. They want
2021.
Yeah. Oh, you're right.
In 2020, come on, Ashley.
Well, I'm in quarantine. I don't see anyone, so no one in 2021 has tried to touch my hair. But it's almost like you want people to. I would hope that the next time they see a young lady or a young man who has locks or twists or braids, that they understand, their hair may not grow out of their scalp bone straight. And so if you're fine with someone with bone straight hair wearing their hair half up, half down, and how that looks, you should be okay with if it's half up, half down, and it's twists, or if it's half up and half down and it's locks. Like, I just hope that there is a level of understanding, and that, yes, no one would ask to touch someone else's hair, or at least maybe ask. Don't just reach out and touch.
But you know what? Don't even ask. Don't even ask. Just don't do it.
No, don't ask. No, I mean, yes, maybe you're really close and you really are curious, right? Like, if your friend Jason, if I see you with a fur vest on, and I'm like, Jason, I've got to touch that vest. Like, I would hope that you would be like, okay, Ashley.
Yes, I will let you. But a vest is one thing. But don't touch my hair.
Right.
Yes. No. We're joking. We're all.
And if you guys can already tell, Wheeler is very particular about his hair. So
got to keep it.
He's on that boat with you guys.
Got to keep the moneymaker in good shape there, Whiteley.
Okay.
Hey, let me ask you this, because Ashley, you have to go run and anchor the news here in just a few minutes. But Ashley, you also, besides anchoring the news, you also cover politics at the Texas legislature there in Austin. Mm-hmm. And Texas lawmakers are talking about the Crown Act, which would essentially outlaw and make it illegal to discriminate against someone based on their hair, whether in school or in the workplace. But even if that passes, and there are 7 states that have passed it now, even if that passes, that's still not going to stop the comments that you guys get in public, or that you get because of what you wear or how you wear your hair on TV, is it?
No, absolutely not. But I would hope that it will start a conversation and maybe make some of the people who make these type of comments, if we're having this conversation and people realize that what they're doing is offensive and that they should not be doing these things, then maybe that will open their eyes to realize, oh, perhaps this is a thing. I don't think that the viewer who told me that I was a hot journalist when my hair was straight intended to offend me. In his own man mind, perhaps he was giving a compliment. I don't know how, but I think that maybe that was his intent. He did not perhaps understand how offensive this was. And particularly when you look at the education aspect, there are actually 4 bills filed regarding the Crown Act, and they have little differences in them. And I think especially in spaces of learning and higher learning, if we are telling teachers, this is something your students are going through, you are not allowed to do X, Y, and Z, maybe that will make them a little more empathetic.
And for all the men out there, I have seen Ashley Goudeau's work over the years. If you would like to give her a compliment, why don't you tell her she is a phenomenal journalist, a skilled journalist, a credible journalist, an amazing journalist. Don't tell her that she's hot, and don't tell her that she's cute when you don't even know her. As a dad
Jason,
of 2 daughters.
You gotta speak.
As a dad of 2 daughters, come on, guys. We can do better than that, right? Choose your words. Ashley, I think at this point we should let you go, because I'm not kidding you. I still have another question for Tashara here, but I'm looking at the clock and my heart, I'm not kidding, my heart's beating faster because I know that you're going to be slipping into work just under a deadline here.
You know what? I am from Houston, and so my foot is pretty heavy.
Come on, Houston.
Yep.
So
we all are.
I'm not worried about getting there.
We're all from Houston. We've all lived in Houston.
Oh,
We're
wow.
from Houston. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Everybody
H-Town.
know how we drive. Y'all know how we
Representing
drive.
the 713 now. Come on. Huh?
I love it.
I think I was 281.
Actually, I was representing the 281 for a while. Yeah.
Got in late.
Or the 832. Come on now.
832.
Exactly. 832.
I love this. I love this Houston crew, guys. We got to get together more often.